Alright, today we're going to talk about the top 10 Korean films that will have you at the edge of the seat the whole way through. This is my top 10, so I assume if I like these films, you will like these films as well, or at least you will hopefully like a lot of these films. Alright, let's start with number 10. The Man from Nowhere, directed by Lee Jong-bom. This is a movie that is very similar in comparison to like a John Wick by American standard, except all Korean films have more authentic feel. They have they're just removed from uh, that Hollywood vibe where you just feel the commercial aspect of it just getting in the way of the art. This movie is it's fast paced. There's things going on left and right, but at the same time you are trying to figure out what's going on. There's more mystery to it just besides the action. The action is very well shot. It's it's exciting, and I think the actual story to it is good as well. It is not just an action film. It's not just craziness. There is more to it. There are layers to the movie. But if you're someone who enjoys a movie like John Wick, I think that you would enjoy this even more because I'm personally not a fan of John Wick. And when I first saw Man from Nowhere, I was impressed. And I think it keeps you at the edge of your seat the whole way through. So we have that as number 10. At number 9, we have The Yellow Sea, directed by Nahon Jin. The Yellow Sea is not only a thriller that will keep you at the edge of your seat, as well as a drama, but it's very geopolitical and has layers to it regarding immigration, China, the treatment of outsiders, the treatment of people from different regions, as well as human trafficking. So it's very deep. There's a lot to it, but when you're watching the movie, overall, you just feel a sense of being alone and not being from somewhere. If you've ever had to move to another country or a completely new state, I feel like these feelings kind of you could relate these feelings to what you're seeing in the movie. You're following this one character through this path of a tough life, and when you're watching it, you're always wondering what's to happen next. Besides just being a drama and involving very deep issues, it's just a great movie and a great thriller because what the main character is tasked with when going to a certain destination feels very real. It doesn't feel like in A Man from Nowhere or like a John Wick where everything kind of feels like a movie. The action feels movie like and it's supposed to be and it's fun. The movie feels much more serious and the stakes just feel higher. You can't believe what this person is going through, but you also want to see what's next. At number 8, we have Mother, directed by Bong Joon-ho. And this is a very, very interesting movie. It's at number 8, but that doesn't mean that it can't very easily get shifted to a higher slot. It's a very intricate movie that has a slow pace to it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't keep you at the edge of your seat. This has very good character building and just the mystery as you're watching it unfold is overwhelming. It's a very well done mystery. It almost feels like Memento in certain moments. Mother really shows the lengths of what a real mother would go through for her son or her child. And the way it's revealed and the way the story is written and just put together in general is very creative, very interesting, with a very big payoff. So as you're watching this film and you're expecting for something to unfold, it's probably going to be more than you expect. The film really goes into the legal system and how it kind of turns their back on people in need and economic status impacting how much help you receive. At the end of the day, it just shows what this mother could do on her own. You follow her throughout the whole movie, pretty much on her own, trying to investigate and find out the truth to what happened to her son. At number 7, we have A Tale of Two Sisters by Kim Ji-woon. this is a very good psychological drama as well as horror. So it does not just rely on effects, gore, and jump scares or anything like that. It really has a slow building psychological effect where you actually do get creeped out. It also relies on using flashbacks to build a story. It's very interesting because it comes from a very famous folk tale that has been adapted into a couple of different movies, and this is one of them. But the take on it is so well done that I feel like a lot of American films have taken a lot of inspiration from this. If you've seen a lot of American horror films in general or just horror movies all around, I think you realize that a lot of them kind of have either a narrative or they borrow something from this movie. At number 6, Parasite, another movie directed by Bong Joon-ho, and you've all heard of it by now, and a lot of you have probably seen it. Parasite wasn't my favorite film, but that doesn't take away from the fact of how good it is. And it does have you at the edge of your seat because the story keeps unfolding in a direction you just don't expect. Very deep and very layered, not just a regular thriller. There's also a lot of comedic elements to the movie, but the overall cinematography, the editing, the the way everything glues together as well as the different storylines is done to perfection, which is why it won Best Motion Picture and Best Foreign Film, and that's the same year that Bong won Best Director. So all the accolades speak for themselves. It discusses a lot of themes such as education, uh, classism, the economic structure in Korea, and it really has that feel of talk of letting you know about the skeletons in the closet of anybody, whether it's a poor family or a wealthy family, a taxi driver or a artist. It goes to deeper lengths than every other. It's very hard to even put a genre on the movie or a subgenre on it because it really is something of its own. It's just a great film. If you haven't seen it by now, definitely watch it. Memories of Murder at number 5, directed by Bong Joon-ho also. It's a movie that it's a perfectly written and directed detective film. It has a dark feel to it, and it is basically the Korean version of what we have here as the Zodiac Killer. And I hear a lot of comparisons to the movie Zodiac Killer, but it's Zodiac. It is much better in my opinion. And like I said earlier, it just removes that feel of a necessity to be a commercial success and just has the pure cinema aspect to it. And has a lot of elements to it that go outside of a classic detective narrative. This movie is based a kind of on a true story about the initial serial murders that Korea had to deal with. So it kind of makes it even more eerie in that way because, as you know, the idea of serial killers is a pretty new concept looking at our history. But yeah, watch the movie knowing that it's loosely based on true events and just enjoy the fact that it's a very authentic feel to a detective film. At number 4, we have The Chaser by Na Hong Jin. Once again, you could kind of see or in my opinion, who the top directors and top writers are in Korean cinema. The Chaser I have above a lot of movies because this list is about movies that keep you at the edge of your seat, and The Chaser really does that well. Maybe it's not as deep as other movies, not as many underlying themes and just concepts, but the way it makes you feel is edge of the seat, what's next, kind of heart pacing, nail biter kind of film. It is dark. It's a very dark film, so if you are looking for something that is purely action or kind of fun a fun thriller. It's not that. It is gloomy, it's dark, but it's so good. It takes a darker turn than I expected when initially watching it, but it's made so well, and the just the suspense in the film all the way through the beginning to the very end, it just does not stop and doesn't let go. After watching a movie like that, you really have to just sit down, take a breather, and just relax for a few minutes before you get yourself back into doing whatever you want to do. It's another film that involves serial killers and psychopathic killers, which seems like is a prevalent subject in Korean films. But this one just feels different than the rest, and I know I have it above some movies that like Parasite, which to a lot of people would not make sense. But when I'm talking about movies that keep you at the edge of your seat, do not miss The Chaser. At number three, I Saw the Devil, directed by Kim Ji Woon. I Saw the Devil is it's unlike any movie on the list. You could say it's a combination of The Chaser and The Man from Nowhere. It is one of the best action-packed films I have ever seen. And speaking of suspense, this is like overdosing on caffeine. I mean, it's 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 like it's a Tarantino-esque violent film that is such crazy. It's just such a crazy story in the way it's put together. I will give you a heads up if you're squeamish or you're not looking for gore. This is not your movie. Filled with gore, filled with cruelty and violence, but done in such a way that it is not like it's not one of those movies that are just showing you violence for violence, and it doesn't go. It's hard. It sounds crazy if you see the movie and I tell you it doesn't go overboard, because you would think it does. But in my opinion, every time it's about to go overboard, it kind of leaves you right there. Although expect craziness from the start to finish. This is just aesthetically, the way it's made, it is one of the best action movies, or I would label it kind of action horror. It is one of the best stylistic movies I've seen. It's very lengthy, but the whole way through, you're going to be torn and twisted into different directions. If you're looking to really sit down with a couple of friends or by yourself and just be biting your nails off, sitting at the edge of the seat the whole way through with your heart pumping, this is the movie. At number two, The Wailing, also directed by Na Hong Jin. This is another horror on the list, and I don't think it's as suspenseful initially as a movie like I Saw the Devil. However, it is so different from every other horror movie you see that it has to be at the top of the list for me. It's a movie that really focuses on the supernatural. The movie begins as a detective tale and then slowly creeps into that real horror aspect of it. It is the best part of the movie to me is that it gives you an overall feeling of this a legend or like a real folk tale. It just feels like it's something that would be passed down to grandchildren and their children and their children, and kind of everybody in town knows the story. That's how it feels watching the movie. It is very suspenseful, especially once you get kind of towards the second half. It has a slower build up. It kind of describes the set. It not describes, but it kind of gets you used to the setting, the town, what's going on in glimpses, and then it starts getting weirder and weirder and weirder, and you're starting to try to figure out this puzzle that is complicated. You could see that there's a lot of, breakdowns and analysis of the movie The Wailing. This is probably one of the best horror films, if not the best in my opinion, within Korean cinema. And I've seen it multiple times, and every time I see it, there's always something that I missed the last time. And I just want to see it again. Number one, Old Boy by Park Chan-wook. And you guys have heard of Old Boy before. For some reason, when I was doing my research to watch a film, watch any good movies, Old Boy comes up on so many lists, and I just never wanted to see it because I don't know what I thought it was going to be. But whatever you think the movie is, it doesn't matter. Just watch it because it's truly one of a kind. It is an unreal story. It's it really takes a genius to write something like this. It is very action packed, but it is not action driven, and it is so crazy that it's just another one of these movies where by the end you have to sit down and like meditate for a few minutes to really get yourself used to regular life again. And that's what I would say, that at least the top three or top four of my list, that's how they make you feel. After the movie's over, you really have to sit down, relax, and just think about it. Old Boy is unreal. It's well acted, it's well shot, the story is out of this world, and it just has you at the edge of your seat throughout the whole movie. And you don't know what's going on, and as it's unfolding, you want to know more, but at the same time, you're kind of losing yourself within the story even further until the very end where you start getting the real explanation of things. It is it is hard to describe. That you have to really go into the movie with a blank state of mind, just no idea about what it is or not thinking about exactly what it's going to be. Just sit down and watch and trust me. And that's the top 10 of thrillers that will have you at the edge of your seat, or movies that will have you at the edge of your seat from Korean cinema. I hope you guys enjoy them, and I'll see you next time.